is there a truly reality out there that humans could really know? It's an age-old battle between realists and absolutists. God is not great, how religion ruins everything. And yet it's utterly and totally ridiculous. We need to live for something beyond ourselves. 6 or so before Jesus of Nazareth, Thales of Miletus, speculating on the ultimate nature of reality, claimed that all things were made of one substance, water. Anaximenes, contemporary, declared air as the primary substance to which all reality rose. Another philosopher, Pythagoras, thought that numbers were at the foundation of everything. Heraclitus speculated that everything was really made of fire. Empedocles believed that earth, air, fire, and water were the eternal primary substance of everything. And according to Leucippus and Democritus, reality was really composed of an infinite number of teeny particles called atoms. What's going on here? What are these people doing? And what relevance does that have for us today? That's what I'd like to look at. What these archetypal natural philosophers were doing is it's often called metaphysics. They were attempting to discover what one philosopher said, quote, the ultimate reality into which all can be resolved and which itself cannot be resolved into anything beyond. That in terms of which all else can be expressed and cannot be expressed in terms of anything outside itself. That's what these philosophers 2,600 years ago were trying to do. But see, what's fascinating is that 2,600 years after Thales, scientists today are really, in a sense, trying to do the same thing. They're trying to find what they call a theory of everything, kind of the ultimate principle that defines reality, a principle that itself cannot be explained by anything deeper than itself. You know, today physicists have broken reality down into the basic constituents, quarks, gravity, electromagnetism, and other forces and particles. Someone once said, I just read a while back, someone said there's as many particles out there as there are grants given to scientists to find them. But does something more fundamental than these exist? Something which can be, that all reality can be broken down to, the thing out of which everything arose. Some today believe that the answer is superstring theory. It's an attempt to amalgamate all the fundamental forces and particles along with the structure of space and time and put it into one universal mathematical scheme to explain everything. Now these strings, it's still very speculative. They say a string is to the size of a proton, as a proton is to the size of our solar system, or something like that, So they're obviously very small. Now the problem, at least experimentally, with something like superstring theory, is a lack of tools to test the theory. It would take, they say, a particle accelerator the size of the solar system to smash the particles down into sizes they need to see in order to see if superstring theory were correct. But there's a deeper problem. There's a philosophical problem that exists with this idea that the layers of reality can be peeled back until we unearth the prime one. Suppose with great mathematical theorizing, backed by experimental evidence, confirmations, scientists declare that they have discovered the theory of everything. Suppose they say they've discovered it and they can put it in the formula A plus B equals C. Okay, say that's the formula, A plus B equals C. This was like the lining of the world. If so, I ask the question, how did it get there to begin with? And why is the final theory that formula, A plus B equals C, instead of X plus Y equals Z or another one? A reason must exist for it being as it is, as opposed to something else? And wouldn't that reason, whatever it was, be antecedent to it and thus more fundamental, just as a stone is antecedent to and even more fundamental than a statue? I mean, why X? Why Y? Why Z? I mean, suppose even a superstring theory proved too, and matter and energy could be explained in terms of these vibrating 10-dimensional strings. Why the strings? Why the 10 dimensions? Why the vibrating? Those answers would be more fundamental than the strings themselves. Or suppose the answer were found in one of our imaginary formulas. Again, what explains the formula? You see, we're peeling the layers back, but it's impossible to get to the bottom because whatever the bottom is, it needs to be explained by something else prior to it. And whatever that was needs to be explained by something prior to it, and on and on and on forever. We'd have to step out of the world as it is in order to understand the world, why it is that way. Unless though, there's something that doesn't need an explanation. Unless though there was something that was before everything, something that wasn't created. And, you know, logically and rationally, what else could that be other than the Creator Himself? The God who transcends the universe, who is before it, and who explains it. See, this is the thing. Everything created, anything that's created, anything that once didn't exist and then exists, it needs explanation. If it wasn't once there and then it's there, I don't care if it's a universe, I don't care if it's a rock, I don't care if it's a cup of coffee from Starbucks. If it wasn't once there and then was there, it was created, and therefore it needs an explanation. Only what's uncreated, only what's eternal, only that which was always there doesn't need to be explained. And what else could that be but God? You know, the argument that some people give up, the argument that because the natural world needs an explanation, then the God who created the world needs one too, is a total false analogy. The whole point of an eternal God is that nothing is prior to Him. Okay? Nothing is prior to Him, and nothing is more fundamental. Unlike everything else in the universe, God can't be explained in terms of anything other than Himself. Can you see the point there? Only something that wasn't created, only something that always existed doesn't need an explanation. But the universe, now the scientists now believe the universe was created. And I believe it was too. But because it was created, then something had to come before the universe. Something had to precede the universe. Something has to be there to explain the universe. And again, logically, reasonably, what else would that be but God? You see, in short, you know, scientists can speculate about everything from water to vibrating 10-dimensional superstrings, all in their attempt to find a theory of everything. But it just seems logic alone, just pure logic, would suggest that any final theory of the natural realm, you know, any kind of final theory that's found in the natural realm, it would seem to need to be found, the origin would seem to have to be found in something outside of the natural realm, something that transcends the natural realm. I mean, what else could it be? If it's in the natural world, something has to precede it. So it seems like you have to step out of the natural realm in order to find the explanation for the natural realm. And who else, what else would that explanation be but God? Kind of sounds like God. I mean, who else? What else? How could it all have gotten started unless there was something that always existed and that never not was, that doesn't need to be explained or can't be explained by anything outside Himself? Listen to this quote again. the ultimate reality in which all can be resolved and which cannot be resolved into anything beyond. That in terms of which all else can be expressed and cannot be expressed in terms of anything outside itself. Something that doesn't have a precursor, something that cannot be explained by anything prior to it, something that cannot be caused by anything, but always, always was. What does that sound like? Who does that sound like? What else could that be? Seems reasonable and logical that that would have to be God. Who else? What else?